Hi there, I'm Jen Redfern from Plus Health Company. I'm a chartered physio and Plus Pilates teacher, and today I'd like to chat to you about the clam, or sometimes known as the oyster exercise. So it seems to be a particular favourite of physios, and no doubt at some point along the way you have been taught the clam or the oyster. But in our physio clinic and our classes, we can quite often find that people are not experiencing what they ought to be experiencing by doing the exercise, which is in fact to feel the exercise working in our buttock. So why do we do the clam? So the clam exercise is designed to challenge some of the gluteal muscles, some of the muscles that sit in our buttock and help to control and stabilise our pelvis, hip and wider through to the leg. So they orientate the alignment of our leg and can influence things like our knee posture and knee symptoms and our ankle and our feet. So if we get good strength and control around the external rotators of our hip, which is what clam is designed to do, then we quite possibly will improve a whole host of problems such as knee pain, ankle and foot problems, for example. It also can help to stabilise your back and your pelvis, so you may experience less back pain as a result of working in your gluteals more, not just specifically with the clam, I hasten to add. Commonly though, people don't feel it working them in their buttock, and they can practice it for months and years thinking that they're doing some help, but actually maybe not so much. So clam, what is it? Well, we typically would be on our side for our clam exercise, and the first thing to think about is whether you're comfortable to rest your head on your arm in a lengthened position. If you are, you need to get the thickness of the towel support under your head right, so you're able to keep your head orientated in the centre line of your torso. That's called the midline. If you don't have enough support on your head, then your head will drop downwards towards the floor and it will not be in the midline. And conversely, if you have too much support under your head, again, you will not be in the midline. Now, for some people, it can be uncomfortable to have the arm in this position. So if you have limited shoulder movement, that might be a factor. So instead, position your arm in front of you and get a thicker towel or cushion so that you're able to maintain the midline for the head and neck. So to follow, it's important to think about the shoulder and how and what that's doing. It's quite tempting, especially if we're a little bit weaker around our hip, to start to notice the shoulder rising up to the ear. So we need to retain some awareness of this, keeping the shoulder relaxed and staying wide across the collarbones. Now, usually people have a smaller waist relative to their pelvis, so we need to do a little bit of work to help to lift and stabilise through the lower side of our waist. That might mean that we have a little gap under the waist and some of the lower ribs. Imagine you have a little mouse house under your waist, or your shining array of light underneath you, and you want to be able to see that at all times. Then with the pelvis, we should be stacked in our pelvis. It's quite common for people to glide and move the top side of the pelvis back when they're doing the clam exercise. And this is quite commonly a fault that leads us to be less effective when we're practicing. So keep the pelvis stacked. Imagine you've got two headlamps at the front of the pelvis that you're shining right ahead, and keep it that way. With the knees should be slightly ahead of our hips, and our feet should be in line with the hips and the shoulders. So glance down, check that they are, but then remember to reorientate your head and neck, shoulder alignment. Now when you're here, you're good to go. Think about centering, and as you breathe out, keep your heels connected and open that top knee. As you breathe in, bring it back. So heels being really pressed firmly together can help to very much increase the volume in the recruitment of your buttock muscles. So the more firmly you press the heels together, the more likely you are to create good work through the hips. Now, if that's feeling okay, you might like to progress by sending both feet upwards, again keeping the heels connected, and then continuing with this opening and closing action at the knee. Although the knee is what you feel to be moving, the muscles that are moving the leg are in fact the ones coming from the hip. So that's a way that you can effectively get yourself set up and ready for clam. And then there's all sorts that you can do when you're there. You can work slowly, and then you can work more quickly. You can work with a band around your thighs, so you're working against resistance, and you can work to try to pulse at the top of your movement to strengthen where you maybe spend less time. All in all, there are lots of variations in which you can practice your clam exercise. But if you're not feeling it in and around your buttock, then my suggestion would be to create a more forwards lean position. So utilise more support through the arm, lift through the feet, keep through the lift through the lower waist, and then target the back of the hip by squeezing your body muscles together first, as if you're holding a 50-pound note between them. Deepen the pressure between the heels, and then this slightly more forwards position that should help you to feel more around the back of the hip, the buttock muscles themselves. Now, if you're somebody that has been practicing clam and you've been doing it for a long time and never felt it in your buttock, then there's every possibility that you've become very overactive in the outer aspect of your thigh. And once that's happened, it can be quite tricky to correct it. So you'll need to work hard at that. And it might mean doing some foam roller release or some spiky ball release, or having some manual therapy with us in physiotherapy or elsewhere if you're not local, in order to help to break down that overworking that has occurred and developed over time. So it's important that if you're practicing your clam exercise, you feel it in your buttock. And buttocks are often bigger than we like to think they are. But really, we want to be able to feel anything from that knobbly hip bone at the side of our hip, backwards towards the chunky part of our buttock, upwards towards the start of our lower back, downwards towards the start of our upper thigh. If we're feeling it all down here, that's not where we ought to be experiencing the exercise first and foremost. So your technique is probably a factor. And where technique is a factor, get advice on that. Come and see us, go see someone locally if you're not nearby. But also consider wrapping an exercise band or even a scarf and knotting it around your thigh, so you have very little movement there, but you're pushing up against your resistance. That can really highlight and target those muscles that you're trying to tune into, but your body's having a hard time doing at the moment. So I hope that was helpful. Until next time, thanks for listening.